So in today's video, I want to talk about preppers. Specifically why I think preppers are not crazies. As a lot of you guys know, I'm a mechanical engineer, and in my business, Adaptive Habitat, we help people design resilient homes, acreages, and farms. And in our education company, Verge Permaculture, we teach people the same skills that we use when we design those resilient homes, acreages, and farms. And so you can imagine we get a lot of people coming to our courses and hiring us that may self-define, or others may define them as preppers. So if you've never thought about what a prepper is, or it's the first time ever hearing this word, a prepper is somebody that is concerned about the state of the world. They're typically pretty educated people. They read a lot, and they're aware of the fragilities that exist around them. And so they take steps to manage the fragilities that they see in the world via changes that they make in their life, either to the infrastructure that they depend on, where their food comes from, how they generate power, how they look at water, or how they store water. There's lots of different ways that they can insure themselves. And everybody has a slightly different point of view with regards to which threats they want to focus on, in terms of which ones they want to create insurance around. And so we come in and help those individuals by doing a number of things. The first thing is that we'll sit down and understand their goals, which typically talks and uncovers the concerns that they have in the world. Then from there, we'll look at the resources that they have access to, whether it's land, time, and money. And then we help them to deploy their resources in a way that's going to create the most resilience around the issues that they're most concerned about. And to be honest, when I started doing this, I wasn't really sure how many people would be interested in this type of a service. And I've been completely blown away with the number of people that are constantly inquiring about this sort of stuff, which is why it's great that we have lots of different ways that we can be engaged, either through courses or consulting. Now, one of the sentiments that I hear quite often is that preppers are crazy. And I could not disagree more. I don't think preppers are crazy at all. Whenever somebody tells me that preppers are crazy, the first question that I typically ask them is, do you have life insurance? Or do you have disability insurance? Or do you have some form of insurance, car insurance, house insurance? And if the answer is yes to any of these insurances, I ask them how house insurance or life insurance is different than having 5,000 gallons of water in a cistern outside your house, or having a grid hybrid renewable energy system that provides electricity when the grid goes down and supplements your power when the grid is up, or how having a giant vegetable garden and perennial food forest is any different than having unemployment insurance. See, people have come to believe that our modern society has it all figured out and that nothing can go wrong with it. And what I'll say is that our modern society has a ton of stuff figured out, but that doesn't negate the fact that there are black swans lurking out there. Now, black swans are basically events that are unlikely Okay, so they're not probable, but they're possible. And as an engineer, actually, I mean, engineers typically are hired as risk managers because we can look at things through a technical lens and try and determine probabilities with regards to whether a specific system or subset of systems are going to fail. And then we get hired to figure out how to make that system more robust. This is basically what I did as an engineer in the oil and gas industry. One of my main roles was as a risk manager. So whenever you look at an event, a black swan, let me give you some examples of that first. A black swan could be an earthquake, or it could be a forest fire, or it could be a famine, or it could be a flood. Things that are difficult to predict in terms, and basically actually not just difficult to predict, but impossible to predict. That if they happen would be absolutely catastrophic. So whenever you're looking at a risk, you have to ask yourself two questions. First of all, how probable is it? And second of all, if an event does occur, what are the consequences of that event? So basically you run everything through this little matrix that I'm going to describe. So if it's not probable, but the consequences are astronomical, it's worth insuring against. If it's probable and the consequence is astronomical, it's still worth insuring against. If it's probable but not astronomical, maybe it's not worth insuring against. And if it's not probable and not astronomical in its consequence, it's also not worth insuring against. So we can, with a high degree of certainty, determine how likely you are to die given your age and various medical conditions that you might have. And based on that, insurance companies will determine how insurable you are. Well, we can run the same type of process in how we look at risk with regards to all of these other subsets of tasks or classes, like water security, food security, energy security, thermal energy security, how you keep your house warm. So preppers, in my opinion, are just a little bit more aware of the black swans that exist in the world and are willing to put their money into insurance policies that are not typically considered typical. Like, you can't go to an insurance company and buy water security insurance. You can't go there and buy food security insurance, and you can't go there and buy thermal energy insurance. And so, in a way, we act as advisors and consultants to help people create their own insurance policies around whatever fragilities they're concerned about. And we help create insulation between them and these issues. And so if you're of the opinion that preppers are crazy and you own life insurance, I would urge you to ask yourself what the difference between those two types of insurance are. And if you are a prepper and you're tired of people calling you crazy, just ignore them. I would say that I'm a pragmatic prepper in that I'm aware of the fragilities of the world, and the way that I don't worry about them is by creating insurance policies in my life which can range from super cheap and easy to implement to really expensive and hard. And there's always a range or classification that you can choose to engage at depending on your finances, your budget, and your skill set. So just a couple of examples before I finish the video. If you have no money and you're worried about food security, one of the cheapest things that you can do is invest in education. Learn how to garden. Start a garden. Start figuring out how to learn how to grow food. If you're well-to-do and you're interested in food security but you don't have a lot of time, you can invest in perennial food systems. You can invest in nut systems, systems that produce mast crops, systems that produce food, systems that are self-managing, that once you set them up, they just do their own thing. So there are plenty of different ways that you can engage in creating resilience, regardless of whether you're a renter or you own something, or you have lots of time, or you don't have much time at all. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'm going to do a whole series on anti-fragile properties coming up, so make sure you subscribe to the video to get notification. If you like this video, hit the like button below, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next video.